Hello, interwebs, and welcome to Padre's Corner. I'm Father Robert Balaser, Padre SJ in the Twit TV chat room, and this is just a show about anything I want it to be about. Essentially, it's a way for me to talk to you, the good men and women, the girls and the gals of chat realm. I love you for what you bring to twit.tv. It's really how I've enjoyed creating content, and so I wanted to give something back. This show is all about the stories, the rumors, the innuendo that I've heard over the week in the chat room, the stuff that I think you want to hear about. Let's get right to it. We've got some freaking science. You know that I love me some science, and this time we've got something from Russia? Yeah, Russia is showing us a little something on how you break through ice. Now, previously, when we wanted to break through ice, we used one of those traditional icebreakers, which used a sharp prow with a lot of armor so that it would cut through the ice and make a big enough channel for ships to get through. Well, this new one doesn't do that. You may notice from the picture, it looks kind of odd. The reason why it looks odd is because it doesn't go through the ice forward, it goes through the ice sideways. That's right, folks, sideways. Now, here's the idea. A lot of people think that when an icebreaker goes after ice, they're just ramming into the ice sheet trying to carve out a lane. That's actually not true. You couldn't do that with a ship of any size. The ice would win. Eventually, you would bust through the hull plating of your ship, and you would end up at the bottom of the ocean. Rather, what the ship will do is it will ride itself up. It will change the ballast to make it ride high so that it will end up on the ice sheet. Then they'll shift the balance forward, move by pumping fuel and liquids to create a pressure that will crush through the ice, up to 2 feet of ice for most of the icebreakers, a bit more if you've got a nuclear-powered version like the Russians do. Well, this continued motion will eventually break enough of the ice so that you can get a ship through, the icebreaker or the ship behind it. Here's the problem. The old traditional icebreakers just weren't wide enough, not big enough for oil tankers, not big enough for cargo containers. So what you had to do is you had to do it twice. You had to break a route through the ice, then you'd have to come back and widen the route so that the cargo containers and the oil tankers could get through. It was a laborious process, and it cost a lot of money. I mean, ships are not cheap to run. So what the Russians have done is they've come up with a novel approach. They've built this icebreaker that uses these azipods underneath the ship. They rotate 360 degrees, and they allow you to direct the thrust any way you want. So it can travel forward in its regular route through the ocean, but as soon as it encounters ice, it turns itself sideways and then uses the shape of its bow to push itself over the top of the ice sheet and then shifts the balance, just like you would in a regular icebreaker, to create a down pressure on the ice sheet cracking through. That's where the similarities end, because since the ship is going sideways, it cracks a channel that's wide enough to let through a cargo carrier or an oil tanker. Very innovative solution, not created by the Russians, built by the Finns, but I think we're probably going to see more and more icebreakers take this approach. What I'd really like to see is a nuclear-powered icebreaker, and the Russians are the only ones that are really using those, that uses this approach to roll over the ice and break us free of that cold, cold prison. Now let's get on to something that I like to call the standing belly clap. You may have seen this yesterday. If you went to Google, you probably saw their Google page saying this. They had a quote from the Olympic Charter that says, and I quote, "The practice of sport is a human right. Every individual must have the possibility of practicing sport without discrimination of any kind in the Olympic spirit, which requires mutual understanding with a spirit of friendship, solidarity, and fair play," from the Olympic Charter. Now, what I like about this is that it's classy. Google didn't come right out and say, look, we think that you're doing this wrong. We think that you need to change what you're doing. What they did was they just said, look, this is something that's in the Olympic Charter. We're not making this up. These are the principles that you said you were building the event around, and we're not sure if you're meeting them in Sochi. Now, this could be seen as a slap in the face to the Russian people, but I would rather like to see it as Google saying, look, in a world of the internet, in a world where we are all citizens of the internet, there's going to be a bit more attention. There's going to be a bit more of a spotlight on what you do. And guess what? The old king is dead. Long live the king. All right. straight from the chat room. I was sitting in the chat room the other night, and someone called me on a episode, I believe it was of maybe Twilight or TNT. No, it was an episode of TNT, the old TNT, where I talked a little bit about leveraged buyouts. I can't remember exactly what I said, but they were really upset. They said, look, I just watched episode blah, blah, blah of TNT. You were talking about leveraged buyouts, and I got the impression that you didn't like them and you thought they were destroying America. Well, how dare you, et cetera, et cetera. And they were upset. And I understand that. So I want to address it here. I think maybe there's some people who don't still understand what a leveraged buyout is. The process itself is pretty simple. In a regular buyout, I would go to a company owner and I say, I would like to purchase your business. Here's what I can offer you in cash. Here's what I can offer you in, say, stock. Here's what I can offer you in other resources I may have. And I would like to purchase your company now, please. Thank you. That's not what happens in a leveraged buyout. The reason why a leveraged buyout is different is I may not have enough money to cover a buyout. Or even better yet, I don't want to risk my own money. I don't want to risk my own principal. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to approach a bank who will act as my partner and say, I would like to buy company X. I don't want to risk any of my own money. So instead, I'm going to put up as capital for the loan what company X is worth. I'm going to use the assets of the company I'm trying to acquire to get the money to acquire the company. That's what a leveraged buyout is. Now, that in itself isn't bad. I mean, that's perfectly legal. That's okay. And in a lot of instances, that technique has been used to save a company. Think of all the struggling tech companies that were maybe being mismanaged. Well, in a lot of cases, they use a leveraged buyout. Someone approaches the bank and says, look, I think I could run this company a lot better. I think that if you give me the money against their assets, I will improve the value of the company and I will get you your money back plus interest and everyone will be happy. That's perfectly fine. The issue that I brought up in TNT is what happens after the leveraged buyout. In a lot of instances, what we call the mergers and acquisitions era of banking, companies weren't acquired to improve them. They were acquired to disassemble them. Here's what I mean. Let's say I want to acquire company X and I do the leveraged buyout. That's fine. Now I own company X. I've installed my own friends, my own partners as members of the board of that company. Well, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to give myself a fat salary. Afterwards, I have to reward myself, right? I went through all the trouble to get this company. So now I'm receiving an outlandish salary, probably with some major bonus, maybe without ever having set foot in the office of that company. Okay, that's problem number one. Problem number two, I now have this massive debt on the company's books because remember, I borrowed against what the company is worth to get the money to buy the company. That means that I need to find some quick cash to pay off the bank. So the first thing I'm going to do is get rid of the most expensive part of the ledger, and that is the workforce. That's right. I'm going to dump the workforce as fast as possible because workers are expensive. Once I have dumped the workforce, I'm going to get rid of any manufacturing capacity because, well, the factory is worthless without the people to work it. Now, automatically, I have found a huge source of income, which I can use to pay the bank and get that money back to them so that they're happy. But at the same time, I've essentially killed the company. Without a workforce and without a factory, without those assets, the company is dead man walking. However, it can still make money because of everything it's manufactured beforehand. So I start selling off everything bit by bit. I sell off the intellectual property. I'm going to sell off the retail routes it may have in other countries or parts of the United States. I'll sell off property, and finally, I'll sell off the name itself. This is what we see today in a lot of corporate America. We see companies that are a shell of their former self because they have been acquired, they have been emerged, they have been stripped. That was a thing that I had a problem with. I mean, I understand trying to do business. I have no problem with people doing business fairly in a country today. But if your entire organization, and I'm not going to name any, you can find out which ones do this, is built around the principle of buying, stripping, disassembling, and dissolving companies that actually built something, yeah, we're going to have a problem. All right, that's the end of rant number one. What I'd like to do now is I'd like to go to a good friend of the Twit TV network. I asked her if she could provide us with some intermission, some entertainment, and she did. So, Ali Spags, take it away.
Everybody get up! Okay, specifically the fellas get up. The fellas with low self-esteem. Everybody get up. rhymes with hug me. Hey, one thing I ask of you, okay, be the one you back that ass to. Go from Malibu to Paris, boo. Gotta have a bitch, he ain't bad as you. Hey, when you're passing through, I'll give you something good enough to blow your head in two. Flag on 'em even when you dress casual. I mean, it's almost unbearable. In 100 years, not dare would I pull a far side ledge and pass me by. Nothing like your last gosh, you too square for you. Just back that ass and pull your hair like I do. So I just watch and wait for you to salute the true big man. Not many fellows can refuse this pippin'. I'm a nice gal, but don't get it confused. Here with me. Shake around, get down, get up. I always wanted a good boy. I know you want it. I know you want it. I know you want it. You're a good boy. Can't let it get past me. Oh yeah. Far from plastic. Alright. Talking about getting blasted. I love these blurred lines. I know you want it. I know you want it. I know you want it. But you're a good boy. The way you grab me, must wanna get nasty. Go ahead, get at me.
Thanks to Ali Spags for that. She's a longtime friend of the Twit TV network, and I was just pleased as punch when she tweeted me back, well, yeah, if you don't play it, I'm going to be offended. So here's what I'd like to do now. I'd like to go over a little something else that someone tweeted at me. Specifically, they wanted to know, hey, Padre, you talk about Doge a whole lot, Dogecoin, Doge this, Doge that, Doge mining, Bitcoin, Litecoin. What exactly is cryptocurrency? Now, I will say I covered this on an episode of Know-How, and I'm thinking maybe I want to share that with you. If you've been keeping your ear to the internet, you've probably heard the term cryptocurrency, but you may not know exactly what it means. Let me break it down for you. The cryptocurrency you've probably heard about is Bitcoin. It's the most popular and it is the one with the highest value. I believe at some point the value hit something like $1,500. It was the very first, 2009, and it was popular because a lot of people got into it and they poured their resources into it, and that's really what determines the value of a cryptocurrency. But how does it work? Well, quite simply, a cryptocurrency has a few commonalities, no matter what cryptocurrency you're talking about. The first is that it's decentralized. As opposed to a fiat currency, which has a government backing it, some sort of entity that controls it, there is no one who controls a cryptocurrency. It's designed to be that way. You own your cryptocurrency, you get to do what you want to do with your cryptocurrency, and there is no central server that keeps tabs of how much you have or what you're doing with it. Again, that's kind of alluring. The second commonality is that it is encrypted. Now, I'm not talking about adding a layer of encryption on top of the data. I mean, it's actually baked in to the digital DNA of every cryptocurrency. The currency units themselves, the transactions, everything you do with a piece of cryptocurrency is encrypted. And it's designed to be that way so that, well, you can get a bit of your privacy back. Now, going beyond that, the cryptocurrencies diverge. There's a few dozen of them right now, but they all more or less work the same way. They start with what's called a blockchain. You're going to hear about this if you ever want to mine a cryptocurrency rather than just purchasing it and trading it. Now, when we mine for cryptocurrencies, what it means is that we're using the power of a computer or a specialized device to get that chain of letters and numbers that will prove that we have unlocked a block. Now, that proof will go to a server and it will reward us with the value of that block, whatever it may be. Now, that value will differ from currency to currency because there are certain rules. These currencies all state at the beginning, before anyone starts mining, exactly how many mining units there are going to be. For example, for Bitcoin, there's only 21 million Bitcoins. Ever. You can't print more, you can't change the rules, you can't say, no, we want to double it. There will only be 21 million for all times. Now, you can divide that almost infinitely. You can have a section, a fraction, a tiny piece of a Bitcoin, and it will be worth whatever that fraction is. Now, other cryptocurrencies, like for example, Litecoin has 84 million and Dogecoin has 100 billion. Well, they'll play with the level of encryption, and they'll play with the reward, and they'll play with the total number of units in order to entice people to mine their currency, because again, that establishes the value. Now let's take a look at one other thing, and that's the mining aspect, because I think that's probably the one you've heard about. People turning on their laptops and their desktops and priming for hours to find the proof that they should be rewarded with that blockchain. Well, in the early days, you could mine for Bitcoin. In fact, I mined for Bitcoin with a laptop not unlike this way back in the day, and I got, I think, the first one within about 12 minutes or so. Not bad. But if I were to do that today, it would be priming for years and years and years and would probably still never get me a Bitcoin. You see, that's another thing that is common in many of these cryptocurrencies, and that is that it gets progressively more difficult to unlock each successive block in the chain. That's on purpose. It rewards people who got in early. But it also means that you can no longer use a computer like this, a general purpose computer, to mine something like a Bitcoin, which is based on SHA-256. Instead, you need to use specialized ASICs, these pieces of silicon that just crunch numbers in order to do it. And even then, the return rate has greatly decreased. Now, what we have also seen is the rise of other altcoins, alt currencies, cryptocurrencies, something like Litecoin or Dogecoin, which are not based on SHA, but which are based on script. Now, script, it was designed specifically to resist the attempts to make ASICs to mine them. It's a slightly different type of hashing algorithm because it requires memory in order to find that chain of letters and numbers that will unlock it. That means that you can't make a customized ASIC, but rather you have to use some of these monster GPUs. Now, it is a fun world, but there are all sorts of reasons that you should be wary before you get involved in cryptocurrency. What I would suggest is you drop by some of the websites for Dogecoin and Bitcoin and Litecoin and just read up from the user experiences to find out if it's something that you want to do with your time. But until then, happy mining. Okay, I know there's going to be a lot of people who are saying, oh, well, XX coin is a scam. And others are going to say, well, it's not as much of a scam as fiat currency. And I get it. Look, I don't want to start a battle of whether or not this coin is better than this coin, which is better than that fiat currency. That's not what this is about. The know-how episode I did was really talking about building a rig that could mine, because I find that fun. And there's a lot of other people who find that fun. And if you look at the Dogecoin craze, the reason why it brought in so many people was because we were so sick of how difficult it was to mine a Bitcoin or a Litecoin. We wanted to try a Dogecoin, which was a lot easier. Now, here's the thing. It has now become difficult to mine Dogecoin. I can still do it, but in the early days, I mean, I was probably within the first 10,000 people mining Dogecoin. I got the first 10,000 Dogecoin within an hour. I think now with the exact same setup, I'm getting 10,000 Dogecoin a week. So obviously the difficulty has ramped up. Now, beyond that, let's talk about the cryptocurrency itself. There are a lot of people who are going to say out of hand, oh, X is a scam, Bitcoin is a scam, Litecoin is a scam, Dogecoin is a scam. Yes, but also no. I mean, any of those currencies are a scam in so much as fiat currency is a scam. Now, I'm not saying they're the same. There's obviously something backing fiat currency, which tends to be tangible, which people tend to be okay with. But when you think about what a currency is, a promissory note, you could really use anything. It just happens that right now we've sort of standardized on a fiat currency, on a government-backed currency that has an exchange rate. Bitcoin, altcoin, Litecoin, Dogecoin all have an exchange. They have a ratio at which people are willing to trade it for other currencies. And by nature, I think that actually makes it a currency. Now, will it be a successful currency? This is where I think we can have a debate, and we can have a technical debate, because as far as I see, there is one major problem in all of those coins. And that is the way that they work is they get progressively more difficult to mine as you go further and further into the blockchain. So, for example, Bitcoin only has 21 million. Litecoin has, what, I can't remember, way more than that. Dogecoin has 100 billion. As you get more difficult to mine, it becomes too easy to move to the next currency. This is the inherent problem. When I can jump from Litecoin to Kanye coin or whatever. What do they have? Man coin now? I can't remember what the coin de rigueur is at the moment. If resources start falling into those new alt currencies, then there's not as many people participating in insert name of cryptocurrency here, Bitcoin, Litecoin, Dogecoin. If that starts happening, if people are no longer trading in that currency, it starts to lose its luster and it starts to lose its legitimacy. What fiat currencies have is they have a government that can regulate it, that can tweak how much of that currency is available, and therefore artificially or naturally, I don't know how you're going to look at it, inflate the value of that currency. We don't have that in cryptocurrency right now. So maybe, I don't know, that could be the missing link. But again, if you want to know more about cryptocurrency, go look it up. Geeks, this is something that's fun. Get into it, get interested. Go buy yourself a coin if you want to. Just have something so you could participate in what may be a brave new world. Oh, and by the way, in case you want to know, yeah, I'm a Dogecoin millionaire. All right, folks, this is the time of the show where we say hello to a guest, a man who, well, I think needs no introduction, but maybe you don't know him. His name is Mr. Paul Alves. He is the book guy. Paul, thank you so very much for coming on to the show.
Oh, thank you, Padre. Great to be on the show.
Now, Paul, we know each other from over a year back. You want to tell the folks what it is that you do?
Well, primarily, I'm the host of the Book Guys Show. It's my passion. I love books. And you know, Padre, you've been a co-host for over a year, and we hope to have you back sometime soon.
Yeah, I feel really bad about that. I'm really into the book guy. I love it. I love reading. I love listening to audiobooks.
Just like me, Padre, you know what? I also have a job, you know, so it kind of interferes with the whole Book Guys Show thing. But Book Guys Show at bookguys.ca and Book Guys on iTunes. We started as a way to get more men, primarily, into reading books. We found that there was 3 of us that started the show. It was myself, Greg, and Chris, the book guy. And we found that so many men were not reading books at all. They were more interested in knowing about NFL stats and NHL stats, and they didn't know the pleasure of reading a book or listening to an audiobook. And we said, let's fix that. And our primary inspiration was This Week in Tech.
Oh, no way.
Because, you know, we're watching a guy, Leo, who came from a major network and gave up that whole network, or, you know, whatever happened, and just said, well, screw it, I'm doing it myself. And has built an empire. I'm on it right now. You know, I'm on the Stratocaster and all, you know. And that was our inspiration to say, well, look, we can do our own podcast as well. And we did it. Episode 1, we were so happy. We had like 50 listeners. Well, this is great. Next week, let's try to get 100. And it built and built and built, you know. And eventually Greg and Chris left us, but we met all of our current co-hosts they were listeners. And I'm not sure how we connected, Padre. I don't remember because I have a bad memory, but I know that Jimmy was a listener. We met him through No Agenda and Adam Curry. Professor Allen was a listener. So all of my current co-hosts were previous listeners, and it's brilliant. I love it.
Go figure. That's strange. Now, Dem90 in the chat room has you figured out. He goes, wait a minute. Wait, Paul, the book guy. Wasn't he the guy who offered to put Ruinum posters on the side of his truck?
I did. The offer still stands. I'm still waiting. Hello, Brian. Yeah. Hello.
That's
still waiting.
There you go. Diamond Club, represent.
Good call.
Now, Paul, I got to ask this. So we know now that Twit was sort of your inspiration. Twit was the reason why you wanted to do Paul the Book Guy. You wanted to do the Book Guys podcast in general. But when you think about podcasting as a way to make a living, it's a difficult field, right? I know there's a lot of people who would love to break into doing something like Twit to actually make this their only job. But you've been doing what, the Book Guy for 2 years, 2+ years now, and
2 years, yeah.
It's hard going, yeah.
Very much so. Anytime you have a passion, and especially something creative, whether you're a painter or you know, a broadcaster or a singer, or you know, a musician like Jeff Smith, or you know, someone like Padre who's passionate about tech, it's hard to make that passion your primary income generator. And really, that isn't our point. We don't care. We make our money elsewhere. We don't care. We just want to get together every week or two and bring a really good book that we liked. And I enjoy the episodes more than our listeners because I get to talk to you or Professor Allen or Sir Jimmy, and I discover new books because my co-hosts bring them. We don't rehearse. It's all casual, unrehearsed. So, it's not like Jay Leno show. We practice every line on a teleprompter. So when you, Padre, when you come on the show and you say, Paul, check out, Reamdy or check out Ready Player One, I'm legitimately going, wow, that sounds awesome. And then I'll listen to it 2 days later and I love it. And I hope that translates to our audience where they're also sitting there going, man, that sounds awesome. I'm going to buy that book and read it.
Now, I see behind you that's not the studio I'm used to seeing you in. I mean, I've done quite a few episodes. This looks completely different. What's going on here?
Yeah, I used to have I set up the lights. It took so much time to get the lighting right and all the books behind me. Now I'm in the middle of the shop because literally like 24 hours after I took apart the Book Guys studio, you called me and said, hey, or you emailed me and said, hey, come on, Padre's Corner. And I was like, oh, crap. I just took apart the studio. So what's happening, Padre, is I'm out on the floor. It might be a little echoey. Actually, the studio's back there. Dalek Dreadnought, a man named Mark Townsend, he actually runs a Dalek at all these promotional shows and conferences. He's going to help me build the interior of the current TARDIS. For those of you who don't know what that is, it's for the Doctor Who show. He's going to build me the TARDIS interior. So starting in a couple of, I would say maybe a month, all of our episodes will come from inside the TARDIS, including our new Doctor Who-based podcast that I'm not going to say the name because someone's going to trademark it or do it first.
Good man.
More than compadre.
Yeah. So wait a minute. Are you going to be building Capaldi's TARDIS? Because that might be changing, right?
You know what? It always changes. I'm going to actually be doing the door from, I guess now it is Capaldi's, but Matt Smith's TARDIS, the inside door with the rubber thing around it. The inside, I mean, and around it, got to have the round things. Love the round things.
Okay. Now, you've been asking me this question for forever, so I want to ask you, and that is, what are you reading now?
Oh, you know what? I'll tell you exactly what I'm reading. And we just did episode 96, right here. Nile Rodgers, Le Freak. Brilliant book. We just did episode 96, and I'm going to get torn off iTunes, I think, because we played so many sound clips. Nile Rodgers, you may not recognize the name, but he has probably written, composed, and played guitar on at least 5 or 6 of your favorite songs from the 70s, 80s, 90s, including this year, surprise, he won Best Song for Get Lucky and Best Album with Daft Punk. And very interesting story. Check it out, episode 96, Nile Rodgers, Le Freak.
Yeah.
I got a few more, but Pod, you know I could go on for hours.
I know you could. I know you could. But here's the nice thing. I love the Book Guys show. It's one of those things that I really believed in. I wish I had more time so I could be on it with regularity. But it's one of those things where I think it's important enough that people start to read again that I want to push it as much as possible. So that's bookguys.ca, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So just go.
Padre, the best thing I can say right now is I know a lot of people don't have time to read, like sitting down with a glass of scotch and sit and open one of these things, So the best thing I can say, the guys that don't read, especially guys, because women read, guys don't read. Don't read if you don't want to read. If you don't have time to sit there and read, don't. Go to audible.com. I'm not going to give out the promo code, but go to Audible, get an audiobook, put it in your ears, get some headphones, put some of these in your ears. And if you're doing boring stuff like shoveling the, snow out of your thing or, doing the dishes, you get an extra book in a week by listening, rather than listening to the radio or, some crappy songs. You get an extra book or two a week, and it's a great way for people who don't actually sit and read the page to, ingest a great book. And you know what? Pick a topic you like. Great way.
Yeah, well said, well said. Well, Paul, what do you think about us going over some tech news?
Oh.
All right, let's do that. So we got... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, I said 3 thumbs up.
3 thumbs. Well, you're Canadian, so Canadians are naturally born with 3 thumbs, right? I mean, that's...
Yeah, and the weird chin from South Park.
Thank you, Ike. All right, so let's get to it. We've got a little story here about how Apple might be finding itself in some legal woes. They're being sued over the A7 chip, over what's called the code branch prediction technique. The processor takes a guess at a future dependency, in other words, what instructions, what code might be executing next, and starts executing the predicted instruction. If it's right, that speeds up the processing. Now, Intel was sued back in 2008, and they settled. The patent came from 1998, and the story comes from the Register. But the scary thing about this is it's essentially talking about a patent over something that we've been doing for a long time, which is caching. Now, I want to throw this over to you, Paul, because there are some people who say, oh, and the next story is that the Supreme Court is going to be taking up the case of pot versus kettle. Apple has been in some high-profile litigation recently. Some people would start calling them a troll. Maybe not so much with the Samsung the suit, but definitely with Rockstar Consortium. So Apple was part of the group, including Microsoft and BlackBerry, that bought up Nortel's old patents when Nortel went belly up. They gave those patents to Rockstar Consortium, and now Rockstar Consortium is a bona fide patent troll. They're an NPE, a non-practicing entity. They don't make anything. They're not going to make anything. They don't want to make anything. All they're doing is going down the list of who might be infringing on their patents, and they're serving them with a lawsuit. They're going after Cisco and Google right now, HTC, Samsung, LG Electronics. Essentially, it's the who's who in the electronic world. What do you think about this? Because, I mean, let me break it down. There are some people who say patent trolls are patent trolls, and patent trolls all deserve to be shot, hung, whatever it's going to be. But then there are others who say, wait a minute. They legitimately paid $4.5 billion for these patents from Nortel. If they paid that much money, don't they deserve the right to be able to defend those patents? What's your take?
Well, Padre, some of these patents, yes, okay, patent trolls are patent trolls, but some of these patents are so generic and eventually become so generic that I don't think Intel or Apple can hold this patent for, predictive computing, because it's going to become so common in everyday life. Like, we look at Amazon is not only predictive computing, like they're taking your history and your habits on Amazon.com or .ca. And one of the things that Amazon has been trialing, I think for over a year now, is where they figure out what Paul the Book Guy Alves might buy soon, and they know, because they, I might have put it in my, in my checkout, in my cart, or I might have looked at it a couple of times, and they know I might buy this thing. And what Amazon's doing now is translating that to the real world, where they'll actually, let's say that thing that they think I'm going to buy is in Petaluma, they might actually take it from that hub and ship it to the Toronto branch of their distribution system, thinking Paul might buy it soon. So, and I've had that where I'm going to show you something later in the show that I got in like one day. And I think that they knew that I kept looking at it. And because of that predictive computing, which translates to the real world, they had it already in my local warehouse and shipped it within a day to where I was. And I think that's brilliant. And something like that, predictive computing is going to be so common soon that no one's going to be able to patent it.
Yeah.
Not going to happen.
An interesting thing is that Amazon was one of the first initiators of what we might call the current wave of patent trolls. Remember way back when they patented the one-click?
Yeah.
So the idea was they created a way for you to store all your financial information, and then with one click you could buy it without any confirmation screen. You've already agreed to this. You say, okay, when I push this, go ahead and do all the steps that I would normally have to confirm. Well, there were a couple of companies that said, well, that's kind of normal. Yeah, of course you're going to want to give your customers the ability to just get straight to the sale. And so when they implemented, Amazon sued them, said, no. The one click was our idea. Even though it's not really a process, it's just sort of an abstract notion. The court sided with Amazon and said, you can't do a one click without licensing that technology from them, even though that technology, it's not a technology, it's a piece of code. How do you license an idea from somebody? It would be as if someone came up to you and said, okay, well, I have now patented the opening this door with your foot. Right. And you look at them and go, I'm sorry? Yeah. You can open the door any way you want, but if you use your foot to like prop it open, yeah, that you got to pay me. And of course, that's kind of absurdist. But it's the feel I get when we hear about these patent troll stories, because it's like, wait a minute. It just makes me feel as if the system is broken if these organizations are going to be able to get these patents that seem so common sense. Now, let me say, the initiator of the suit was the University of Wisconsin. They are not typically known as a patent troll. Sometimes it's very easy to tell when you're being trolled. Sometimes, not so much. Let's go on. The next story is, well, I asked you, Paul, what you wanted, and you came up with Kid Fedora. Kid Fedora, Sir Fedora. He's got a bunch of names. Sir Fedora, this kid, this little kid, put this video on YouTube, right? And he's just starting up his channel, and he's this little chubby, and I'm not being derogatory. I was a chubby, awkward kid. There he is on the screen. And he just said, oh, you know what? 1 like on this video, which is default, right? And he's like, oh, hopefully I can get 3 to 5 likes. This would be awesome. And he was so enthusiastic about it. And someone on Reddit got a hold of it, posted it. And listen, we all rallied around him. All of Reddit rallied around this kid. And personally, I said, I got 5 YouTube accounts. I'm going to give him his 5 right now, you know? And he was just so enthusiastic. And you got to see his second video, because by the time, I think I'm looking here, eventually he got 600,000 views, and I don't know how many likes, and 65,000 subscribers. And I'm asking everyone in the chat realm right now, go to @SirFedora on Twitter and just subscribe to the kid. He's just such an honest and just, you know, well-meaning, just an enthusiastic kid. Awesome. Great internet story. Now, this is interesting, because I'm sure there's a lot of social media experts, some social marketing people, who are looking at this and going, there's got to be a way for us to monetize this, because there has been nothing on the internet that the marketers haven't been close behind figuring out a way to make money off of it. I mean, take every meme that there ever was, and at some point someone figured out, hey, I'm going to put this in a commercial, people are going to like it, and they're going to think that this is not an ad because I was clever. How long do you think it's going to be before we get before we get Sir Fedora as the new spokesperson for Nike?
Yeah. Well, just the kid is just so friendly, and who's so genuinely hoping for those 5 likes, you know? And you're right. I'm sure there's an anthropologist or, you know, a sociologist or a scientist trying to figure out, how did this kid get all this attention? And you know what? There's no formula. It's just, you're a nice kid. You're on the internet. Someone saw that you're a nice kid. It's just human nature. Let's help this kid out. And guys, Sir Fedora on Twitter, hook him up.
Indeed. I think we'll hook them up. Oh, and by the way, folks, if you want to know the links for any of the stories that we're talking about, or for, say, the music video that we played for Ali Spagnola, don't freak out. Don't try to leave the show. We're going to put everything in the YouTube show notes as soon as this show goes up. Hey, Paul.
Yes, sir.
You want to talk a little bit about power trips?
Ooh, sure.
Power trips are the best kind, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, so we've got this little story, this little something coming from California about a firefighter who was arrested for a quote-unquote misunderstanding. So as the story goes, the firefighters were responding to an accident on the freeway when a CHP officer came up and said, hey, you got to move your engine. Well, 2 of the firefighters out there were able to move their engine. The third one said, wait a minute, no, let me talk to my captain, because right now my men were working on taking care of the injured woman who was thrown from the car, and I don't feel comfortable moving my engine. And essentially what he was saying is, look, the engine keeps us safe. Otherwise you have traffic whizzing past. It's the thing that's going to keep my crew out of harm's way. Well, the officer had none of it. And in front of TV cameras that were there to look at the accident, he arrested the firefighter, and he put the firefighter in the back of his car. Now, this wasn't just a PR disaster. This was one of those things where people are outraged. People are tweeting about it. They're putting on their Facebook status. They're saying, wait a minute, this man was trying to do a good thing. He was trying to first help this woman. First responders are first responders, but also he was trying to keep his crew safe. And the CHP officer went on a power trip because he said, I can't, I'm sorry, let me go talk to my captain. It wasn't him mouthing off. He was literally saying, I can't move it right now. Let me talk to my captain, make sure we're okay.
He was blocking traffic, but in their the way they're trained is block traffic to keep everyone else safe, right? So the cop is saying, you're blocking traffic. He's like, well, yeah, that's what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah, that's the really disturbing part of this story, which is that, you know, we try to give firefighters and first responders and law enforcement agents the benefit of the doubt, but anytime we hear a story like this, anytime we hear about an officer abusing his power or a fire agent abusing his power, we get pissed off. And here it is. We have the footage right here, which now means I'm probably going to be taken down off of YouTube, of the firefighter getting handcuffed in the middle of the freeway while still responding to the accident. Wow. And, you know, that just, I don't want to see that, because I support law enforcement. I really do. I want to be a supporter of law enforcement, but then it makes me wonder what was going through this officer's head when he thought it would be a good idea to put the firefighter in the back of his car in front of television cameras. Now, Paul, this never happens in Canada, right?
No. Yeah, I know it does. You know what, though? Just like with any group of, you know, human beings, there's always one or two that are D-bags, and there's a D-bag right there. You know, I mean, you can't take, like, you go to Reddit. There's a Reddit called bad_cop_no_donut, and you will find once a week there's a bad cop. Well, there's millions of cops throughout North America and the world. So yeah, there's one cop does a, you know, crappy thing every week. Still, you know, statistically speaking, they're pretty good people. I know quite a few of them. The guy who used to own the place that I own now was a cop, and a lot of the cops still come by here and say hello to me and hang out. They're good people. So again, it's all numbers. You're always going to get that one D-bag. And now with, you know, the advent of iPhone and Android phones and, you know, a camera in your pocket. Everyone has a camera in their pocket. You're going to have more videos coming out now of bad guys doing a job. You know, it happens. But yeah. I think the majority of law enforcement officers are pretty good people.
Yeah. And that's, you know, I hate bringing up stories like this, because I know there's going to be those people who are like, see, I told you, they're all blah, blah, blah. Wait, no. One guy made a stupid mistake. Yeah, it looks really, really bad. But heat of the moment, he thought he was doing his job. The firefighter thought he was doing his job. You kind of want to let it go. But at the same time, you really don't. I would never want this to happen. I mean, can you imagine if you were the person who had been thrown from that vehicle and you hear later on that in the middle of you getting resuscitated, the officer arrested the person who was helping to resuscitate you?
If you see, Padre, like you see, if Brian Brushwood goes on Leno, you know, and he eats fire and drinks ruinum, now people are thinking, well, all podcasters eat fire and drink ruinum, which is not the case.
No, it's totally the case. I do nothing but eat fire. Now, when I posted this story in the doc, you counter-posted. You said, well, if we're going to talk about police officers arresting firefighters, how about police officers pulling guns during snow fights? You want to, this is your story. You want to narrate exactly what we're seeing here?
Yeah, well, bring it up. There's a bunch of kids throwing snowballs, and this cop gets involved and pulls out his gun.
Well, which is perfectly natural, right? I mean, you're going to pull out a gun, yeah.
That is not cool, right? But again, I only brought that up because I just found it. And you know what? Again, it's not all cops pull out their guns during a snowball fight, but this is the one that got caught on someone's Android phone. You know, again, yeah, it's funny. You know, it's something we can talk about, like the power trip arresting the firefighter. But every day in Toronto, probably firefighters met policemen in Toronto maybe 30 times today. That happens every day, every year, throughout every city in North America and you know, throughout Europe. And only this one D-bag arrested the firefighter again. So don't think that that's what happens, that, you know, they're all D's, you know, D-bags. It's just, again, it's internet, the internet world where we see everything and everyone has a phone. So don't think that every cop is going to arrest the firefighters that are putting out the fire at your house. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. I think that's fair. That's fair to say. Now, the other thing, I'm sorry.
Padre, if a cop pulls a gun on you while you're having a snowball fight, put the snowball down.
Exactly. Yeah. Don't force the issue. Now, but let me get the other side there, because I'm not sure if you saw a video from a while back. I think it was the University of Oregon. They had a snowball fight that got vicious. Like they were stopping cars in the middle of this of the campus and dumping garbage cans full of snow. I mean, they were like opening up the door and throwing snowballs at the people inside the car. Now, you know, I think we all recognize at some point you pass the line of it just being innocent fun, right?
Yeah, at a point, if you're assaulting people and dumping, you know, yeah, you pass that. But again, not every cop is going to respond in that situation with violence or tasers. 99.999, 5 nines uptime of cops are going to say, you know, stop it. They're not going to shoot you or tase you. So the ones that we do end up seeing on Reddit or, you know, on the internet are the D-bags, and that's who gets the focus. But you never see on Reddit like, hey, great cop. You know, because no one is like a cop. You know, no one pulls their phone out and says, oh, what a nice guy. Let me take a picture of him.
Very good. Thank you for bringing that up. I was just about to hit that. Yeah. Again, no one ever posts videos and pictures of the cop or the firefighter doing their job. So what you only hear about are the negatives, and that's too bad. I really wish there was a blog that was dedicated just to showing cops doing the right thing 99.9% of the time. That's all I'm saying. All right, let's move on. Paul, you hear about this thing, this like sporting event with a bunch of rings of different colors?
Are we even allowed to say the name?
I don't.
Or is that like this? You know what?
I think I can call it the You know what? I'm going to call it the sports thing.
Okay.
So this. Have you heard about this sports thing happening?
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Well, evidently, NBC has just heard about the interwebs. Yeah, NBC is hoping that their prime delay doesn't doom Sochi. Of course, NBC, again, has the rights to broadcast the Olympics in the United States. And what they're doing is they're allowing for a stream, and they're allowing for a lot of the events to be viewed in real time. But the problem is they're holding back the big events. So
yeah, like last time.
Yeah, exactly like last time. And like, for example, if you wanted to see the opening ceremony, you couldn't. They weren't showing it. They weren't streaming it. There was no way to get it legally. Now, there were plenty of ways to get it illegally. All you had to do was get onto the BBC stream, and boom, there you go. Use your favorite proxy, use your favorite torrent site, use your favorite redirector, and you could get not just the opening ceremony, but pretty much anything else from the Olympics that you wanted. Here's the thing I want to ask you, Paul. It seems like NBC is just starting to realize, oh, so people don't like it when we time delay and make it so that they can't watch the sports, the things that they want to watch 10 hours later. It just boggles my mind that they just don't get it yet.
Padre, I remember last time they failed at this, as they're doing now. I remember getting ready, and here it's rebroadcast on the CBC, but we still have NBC. We have it all in Canada, but again, we had to wait, like you said, 3-4 hour delay. And I remember seeing on my Twitter account, NBC saying, stay tuned, coming up in half an hour, watch Michael Phelps win the gold medal in swimming. That was like, you bastards.
I remember that.
Spoiled it. Like, why would I watch it now? You know, and then they're doing that again this year with this delay. Why the time delay? They have the live feeds. They think that because it's, not live, I'm going to rush home and turn on a television that I don't own. Put it on my tablet, put it on my iPhone, put it on my computer. They don't get it. They really don't.
Yeah, the scary thing is the enabler for them is they are looking at a spreadsheet that says, look, when we play things in prime time, we get more money. So, of course, we've spent all this money to get the rights for the Olympics. So we're going to delay the showing of this until we can guarantee that we're going to get more money from our advertisers. Unfortunately, and a lot of people in the chat room right now, they get it. You know, they understand that MacBook Oxygen says, look, network television doesn't understand. They don't see what's going on here. And I think that's true. I think when we look at the history of how the network deals with big events like this, that are worldwide, that transcend nations, that are really suited for the community of the internet, it shows off how foolish they are, right?
Absolutely. You know who I'd love to see get Olympic coverage? Netflix. Because they get it. They get it. They get that, okay, yeah, okay, you're going to lose money because, the folks watching TV at home on a, standard television, that's not your future audience. Your future audience are the kids. Like I'm in my 40s. kids in their 20s don't even know what a TV is. They've got a MacBook, they've got a PC, they've got a tablet. That's your audience if you want to grow your business into the future. If you want to die, yeah, cater to the people who are sitting at home in front of a television set. Because Padre, in 20 years, no one's going to know what television set means.
That's
Netflix.
That's kind of scary. Yeah. Yeah. And actually, I think you're dead on right there. Netflix, early on in the streaming game, they said, wait a minute, how about this? We're just going to let you watch anything you want, anytime you want, on any device you want. We're not going to put any restrictions. All we're going to do is we're going to abide by the licensing that the content providers have put upon us. Like, for example, if you're in Canada, I can't give you the same thing that you get in the United States because of the weird-ass deals that everyone cuts. But otherwise, I'm going to give you everything at all times. And I think it's worked out pretty well from them. What is it going to take before an NBC or an ABC or a CBS or an HBO is just going to say, hey, you know what? We're going to make the content. We're going to make really good stuff. We think we're going to make higher quality content than anything else that you can get on the internet. We're going to have you pay one price, and for that price, it's yours. Enjoy and do with it what you want.
I'll be honest with you, Padre. I think NBC is so... There's a bracelet around NBC's ankle that is tied to the chain, and the chain is tied to terrestrial cable providers because they're all owned by each other. I think they're all going to sink themselves because they don't want to do the Netflix model, and they're so tied to their cable providers that are charging $150 a month that they're going to go down. It's like the captain going down with the ship. Unless someone at some point breaks that chain, they're going to all go down together, and you know what? I won't miss them. Yeah. Screw them.
That's kind of the sad part. When it eventually happens, and I think we're a biased group, right? Because we're on the internet right now. We're talking the chat room right now. I think eventually that model is going to go away, right? Eventually a Netflix or an Amazon is going to buy the rights to the Olympics, and they're going to make a crap ton of money doing it their way, and then all the other providers are going to say, oh, well, I guess I can make money that way. And then the model will change overnight. But yeah, we're not there yet. Well, we still have a few roadblocks, including how people handle the rights in different countries for any piece of content. Absolutely. But exciting times, yeah?
Absolutely. And you know what? I'm in Canada, so Netflix in Canada is inferior to the States. And I got to, again, kudos to Netflix. If you use a service like unblock-us.com, pay a few extra dollars a month, or one of those free DNS servers, you just switch your computer to being from the States, even though you're sitting in Toronto, and I watch US Netflix or UK Netflix or Mexico Netflix.
Mexico
I get to watch some Mexican wrestling.
Absolutely. Hey, you know what? I think we want to get over to our current obsessions. But before we do that, what do you say we listen to another video that, by the way, has been completely allowed for us by the content provider, by the content creators, so YouTube Content Match can go suck it. You think maybe we should do that?
I say YouTube Content Match, suck it. I will agree to that anytime.
All right. So, hey, YouTube Content Match, suck it.
I've been sitting here thinking about gravity, around the universe reaching out and grabbing me. It's like everything's pulling me back to you. I've been wondering if it's unreality, or if somebody up there is glad at me. It's like everything's pulling me back to you. I don't need to see it, oh no, I just got to believe it, you know. And I know you can believe it too, 'cause it's true. I've been staring at the night sky wondering what's really keeping me under it. It's like everything's pulling me back to you. Don't need to see it, I just got to believe it, you know. I know that you can believe it too, 'cause it's true. But I could just close my eyes and deny you, and not see skies of blue. but you everywhere. Think about gravity, reaching out and grabbing me and pulling me back to you. I've been sitting here thinking about gravity, just reaching out and grabbing me, pulling me back to you, pulling me back to you. That's gravity pulling me back to you. That's gravity pulling me back to you.
Thank you to Jeff Smith for letting us play that video. And again, both Jeff Smith and Ali Spags did let us play their content. So YouTube content matching, yeah, please go suck it. So I was thinking this might be the time of the show where it would be best for us to share our obsessions. What do you think about it?
Absolutely, let's do it.
Yeah, for me, I've been kind of getting back into Farscape. Do you remember Farscape at all?
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
that was good. Wasn't the Muppets part of that? That was a great show.
that was Jim Henson's last big thing, which was absolutely completely awesome. So the idea behind Farscape, in case you've never seen the series, is that John Crichton, an astronaut, gets shot into a wormhole and gets taken into another part of the universe where you have things like these biomechanoid living ships and the Sebacean race and these aliens that are just beyond description. It was a wonderful joint for me when I was growing up. My bit of sci-fi that was not either Star Trek or Star Wars. Now, I don't know about you, but one of the things that I really liked about Farscape was the fact that they weren't afraid to make fun of the sci-fi genre. I mean, you could see it tongue-in-cheek. And Ben Browder was, who ended up on Stargate SG-1 later on, was a great actor in doing that. He had that sort of cocky swagger. Yeah, I'm doing the sci-fi hero and you know it, and I know that you know it, and now let's get along.
That was the one that had the living ship, right? And the ship had
the Leviathan. Okay. Yeah. So you had this Leviathan called Moya that would take them all throughout the universe, and it could do this starburst thing. You had a ragtag group of criminals, of outlaws, who were banding together to be a band of brothers and make sure that everyone else got out okay.
I always like the living ship aspect of it, that the actual ship was a character. Which because being a Doctor Who fan, or hooligan as we call it, I love the fact that the ship was alive in some manner, but in Farscape it actually talked to you, and it's great.
Yeah. And Moya was definitely a character in the show, along with Moya's pilot. So the idea was Moya was the ship, which was, again, a biomechanoid. So the ship was actually alive. They were living inside of a ship that could repair itself, that could grow, that could provide them with DRDs, these little robots, as well as pods that they could fly out. And you had this thing called a pilot, which was one of Jim Henson's greatest creations. Very expressive, very cool, and was, in a lot of ways, some of their favorite characters. Now, I will say this. I watched the entire series. I love the fact that they ended the series on a big screw you, because they didn't know if they were coming back. Right. And so at the end of the series, it looks like, spoiler, give you some spoiler time, spoiler. Okay, it looks like the main characters are dead. And then they realized they weren't going to come back for another season, but they were given a movie. Now, I don't know how you feel about this, but I feel that Farscape: The Peacekeeper Wars, which was the movie to tie it up,
there was a movie that tied up the end of it?
There was a movie, but yeah, I think it is to Farscape what Serenity was to Firefly. In other words, it was fun, but it felt forced. It felt like they were tying up the ends too quickly, and it felt like they killed off one of my favorite characters just because they could kill off one of my favorite characters.
Right.
Yeah. Did you get that feeling with Firefly and Serenity?
With Serenity, I felt that, with all this internet, camaraderie, trying to bring this series back, and then they brought out Serenity and said, well, everyone's dead, or she's dead, and this guy's dead, and that guy's dead. I was like, you bastards!
Yo, stop! What are you doing?
Don't kill everyone.
Yeah, exactly.
Especially not Summer Glau, for Christ's sake.
Well, I'm a firm believer that the best internet show ever would be Summer Glau Kills Everything. Yeah, I would totally watch that. That would be my next joint.
I would invest in that.
I would invest in that. Now let's skip over to you. Now you say you have an obsession. Why don't you tell me all about it?
Well, you know, one of the obsessions, of course, is I'm getting into the t-shirts here, but especially it's the new TARDIS studio. Padre, it's going to be so cool. Dalek Dreadnought, episode 80 of Book Guy's show. Mark Townsend, what a talented man. What he does during the day is he's an aircraft engineer. He builds small planes. But what he does on his spare time is he builds Daleks and Cybermen and, you know, TARDISes. So he's built a bunch of police boxes to the specs of the show. So he's going to build, with me, he's going to build a door for the studio and a little set so that the book guys is now going to be coming from inside the TARDIS. And of course, our new Doctor Who themed show, which I shall not name. And a theme song, of course, is going to be by Jeff Smith, thejeffsmith.com. Talented man. And that's basically it right now. That's my you know, end of the day passion. That's what it is.
Yeah, I love that. Now, one of the things I will say is that you have been into Doctor Who for as long as I can remember. I remember reading back on your own tweets. You've been a Whovian or a Who-ligan for quite a long time, and it hasn't really faded. I'm wondering, is that just a sci-fi thing? Because people love their sci-fi. I mean, be you a Star Trek person, a Star Wars person, a Doctor Who person,
all of the above.
Yeah, all of the above. It's just we really hang on to it, unlike a lot of other aficionados of certain genres. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. We're passionate. I love sci-fi. I've watched all the Star Treks, all the Star Wars, all 3 Star Wars movies I've watched. Love sci-fi with a passion, but Doctor Who, much like Nile Rodgers, if you listen to the latest Book Guys show episode, the reason Nile Rodgers survives from the 70s till winning the best song and best album this year is that he changes with the decades, whereas Doctor Who, same thing, changes with the decades. I mean, every Doctor changes the show changes and doesn't reboot, but just keeps going. One thing Star Wars didn't do, it did not change with the decades. They tried to do 1970s Star Wars again, except worse. I shouldn't even reference those movies because in my mind, they don't exist. And what Star Trek did well as well was also morphed with the decades. You know, Next Generation was different from Deep Space Nine, and Star Wars Enterprise was different from the ones that came before it, but they always morphed to fit with, you know, current day.
I noticed there that you skipped over a Star Trek franchise. Was that on purpose?
No, not at all. No. Star Trek franchises have always changed and got, you know, the only one that I thought made a big error was Star Trek Enterprise, that went with the you know, Rod Stewart sounding song rather than the orchestral thing. I think that was their big mistake, that they went with that, you know, that montage beginning.
Folksy, yeah.
You know, yeah, it really didn't fly well with Star Trek fans, but that franchise has kept moving forward. And I think we're going to see a Star Trek TV series in the next 5-10 years.
Yeah.
And that's the whole thing. Star Wars failed to do, and the Doctor Who does best, which is change with the times.
Yeah. Well, Paul, I think maybe it's time for the tech.
Yeah.
So I thought that for my tech segment, I wanted to show off a little something that I've been playing with for a while. People who watch the Twit TV network will know that I reviewed this. This is the IO Safe Synology N2. Now, they updated this. This is their 2-bay indestructible NAS. The idea behind it is they encapsulate a high-performance NAS inside of a ceramic casing, inside of a steel armored shell. No, it's not just hardware. They have this data recovery service. So the idea is when you buy your drive, you automatically get an insurance policy. If anything happens, be it a disaster, a fire, an earthquake, a flood, electrocution, or user error, you could screw it up. You could accidentally delete all of your data. You are covered. They'll go ahead and send it back to their drive recovery service and try to get your data back. Now, I did a review of this on Before You Buy and on Know How, and I thought maybe you need to take a look at the N2. The N2 is a 2-bay network-attached storage box from IOSafe that is billed as disaster-proof. In reality, the N2 is two products in one. A high-performance Synology NAS inside a 28-pound disaster-resistant suit of armor. In the past 6 years, I have personally seen IOSafe products survive everything from the relatively mundane impacts and high G-force events, cooking in 1400-plus degree flame, dunkings and fire hoses to simulate floods and firefighting efforts, to the more extreme. I've watched IOSafe enclosures crushed under the treads of a backhoe, blasted with multiple shotgun rounds, and scorched by lightning. In each case, the data was recovered off the drives. The N2 uses all of IOSafe's know-how to give users the convenience of network-attached storage in the IT equivalent of an Abrams tank. The armor starts with a steel shell that is capped by a steel and ceramic door, held in place by two hex bolts. The door fits snugly into the inner sheath, which is actually water-impregnated ceramic. IOSafe created this material, and it's been used in all of their rugged desktop products. In a fire, the ceramic ablates, keeping the heat from reaching the core while the water evaporates, both cooling the ceramic and creating a positive pressure that pushes smoke and soot out of the case and away from electronics. Inside the door is another steel cap, which is actually the start of the NAS capsule. Removing the cap reveals two drive bays with secured SATA drive sleds that will currently accommodate up to 4 terabyte SATA units, like our Western Digital Red series of NAS design drives. The bottom of the front face houses an array of LED indicators, as well as the power and backup buttons, a USB port, and an SD card reader. The back of the N2 sports two USB 3.0 ports and a single gigabit Ethernet port. The setup wizard will have your new drives up and running in about 10 minutes, and then you can play with the exhaustive list of N2 features. Windows, Mac, NFS file sharing protocols, of course. FTP, FTPS, SFTP, TFTP, PXE, why not? WebDAV, you betcha. VPN services, media indexing, network backup, VLAN support, all part of the package. The N2 makes it easy to create shares, add users, join existing domains, and pretty much everything you might want out of a Soho NAS, no matter if you're using Windows, Mac, Linux, iOS, or Android. The N2 can also host your website and MySQL databases, make itself available to the outside world via DDNS, auto-configure your router, set firewall and quality of service rules, enable SNMP monitoring integration, give you a terminal shell, and set all of your standard networking parameters. Performance tests showed impressive transfer rates of about 53 megabytes per second write and 83 megabytes per second read, which put it into the upper echelon of Soho NAS performance. As impressive as is the N2's disaster-resistant design and performance specs, the real value of the N2 is in its included data recovery service. The standard N2 comes with a $2,500 one-year insurance policy for all your data. If for any reason you lose your data, be it equipment failure, disaster, or user error, IOSafe will pay to get your data back, no questions asked. DRS can be extended for up to 5 years for 99 cents per month per terabyte, and upgrading to DRS Pro ups your insurance to $5,000 per terabyte. In all, between the armor, the Synology NAS, and DRS, the IOSafe N2 is one of those rare products that delivers exactly what it promises: disaster-proof storage with the speed and convenience of a NAS. The IOSafe N2 network-attached storage server is available now. You can find it for $600 and up. Now, I see the comments in the chat room, and let me say off the bat, I don't get compensated for any of these reviews. There are no manufacturers out there who pay me for a good review. There are no manufacturers who pay me for a review, period. I think my policy, and this is the Twit policy as well, is we get gear, and we always send it back. All you got to do is give us a return label, and we'll send it back, or you could ask us to send it to someone else. What sometimes will happen is I will get manufacturers who, after I'm done with the review, will tell me to go ahead and donate it. That's typically the way that it works. It's really the only way to do it if you're going to have any sort of integrity. Now, that's what I've been playing with. What about you, Paul? What's the tech that's got you?
Padre, I got to say that IOSafe, shut up and take my money.
Yeah, right?
I want to fire hard drive because all the stuff I got here, if this place burns, my data burns with it. Other than Dropbox, shut up and take my money.
Yeah, there's always a little bit of sticker shock whenever someone looks at the price of something like that.
Yeah.
But then you say, okay, you know that feeling you get when you lose something that's really valuable to you? Now imagine you just had a fire or an explosion and your data all came back. And you imagine the opposite of that feeling. That's what you're paying for.
Yeah, you know, I've had computers go down and it's like, you know what? Screw the computer. Can you save the hard drive? That's all that matters.
Right?
And folks, that concludes the practical tech portion of this segment. because it's all impractical from here on in. First one I got.
Bring it on me.
High fun Bluetooth gloves. Padre, just as we got used to seeing people talk to themselves on the subway or on the street, we thought, they're wearing a Bluetooth thing or they got their headphones on. Just as you figured out who's crazy and who isn't, there I am on the corner.
Oh, my
talking on my high fun gloves in the middle of winter. And this is literally how you talk on these things. And I love them. There's a microphone here and a little microphone here and a headphone here. So you literally talk like this, and there's an answer button here and a hang up, there's a thing to turn on the Bluetooth here. But I'm literally talking like this, like you were when you were a kid. The mimicking the phone call, I think it's great. People think I'm nuts, and they're only partly wrong.
See, I would have 2 of them just so I could walk around like this and just have people completely think I've lost it.
Well, then technically you're talking to yourself and you are crazy.
Yeah, exactly. All right, now you got something else though, right? You got something else on your list?
I do. One more. One thing, I shared the shop. I have a little office there that Terry, the toy guy, rents from me. And I always get to see the coolest toys months before they come out. I mean, I got to see the Avengers toys before they came out. This is the Estes Proto X. It is the world's smallest production quadcopter. Look at that thing go. And it is tiny. I'll show you in my hand. The video is really cool. I'm not going to actually, I'll turn it on, but I won't fly it because the last time I tried to fly it too close to me, I almost took out an eyeball. That's how big it is.
All right, I'll admit that. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
It's tiny. Literally, the whole chassis is the actual circuit board. This is how genius they are. The circuit board is printed, and that's the actual the basis of the craft. And the top, I don't know if you can. It'll come out on the thing here. Looks kind of like a Cylon.
Yeah,
it comes with extra
it's got
blades,
that Cylon look. Look, it looks like it's smiling at me.
It does.
How about that? Yeah. So when you're flying these things around, how can you tell which way is forward and which way is back?
I figured out that forward is the blue lights, red are the rear lights. So you can quite easily figure out which side to go, which way to go. The little controller's neat. The controller's only this big. I was kind of hoping they had a full-size controller, but this is still kind of cool. But it is tiny. I'm sure the NSA has smaller ones that look like flies, but this is the smallest production quadcopter, and it's easier to control. Like I've had the little tiny helicopters, and they go all over the place. Right. This thing actually stays pretty steady in the sky because of the 4 blades. Makes it easier to control. I still say don't do it indoors, go outdoors, because I keep hitting the ceiling here, and but it is fun. The Proto X by Estes.
But it's CR1 in the chat room. He asks the important question, which is, yeah, it looks cool, but can it kill?
No, there are no weapons and no CR1. I do not get paid for this either. I just think it's really cool.
Well, Paul, you know what? I hate to say this, but we've used up all of our time. In fact, more than our time. This show was a little longer than I had anticipated. But I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for coming on. You know how much I've enjoyed being on the Book Guys, and I'm sorry I haven't been able to join you, but I really do appreciate that you took the time out of a Friday night to come on to Padre's Corner.
Padre, you know how much I love you, buddy. Anytime.
Yeah. And can you tell the folks at home one more time just where they might be able to find you in case they start looking for the Book Guys?
I'm at Paul the Book Guy on Twitter, but don't find me. Go to bookguys.ca or search iTunes or your RSS feed aggregator for Book Guys Show. Join us there. We're no longer on YouTube. We don't do the video anymore because we don't have a $20 million studio like Leo and Padre. But Book Guys Show. Search for us on your IPP podcast player on Android or iTunes. We're there. Our 100th episode is coming up soon. I think we're at 96, 97. The 100th one is going to be a lot of fun. Next 1 or 2 weeks, we got George Chuvalo, the guy that Muhammad Ali couldn't knock down. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah. Paul.
Bookguys.ca is our website.
Thanks again. I really, really do appreciate it. And I appreciate you hanging around. Thank you very much for standing with us, even through our technical difficulties. We are going to make this show available for you at youtube.com/PadreSJ. Yeah, unfortunately, I don't know how to do the lower thirds, but it's going to pop up right about here, youtube.com/PadreSJ. Go there. You're going to see all the episodes of Padres Corner pile up. And the reason why it's on YouTube and not on Twit TV is because technically this is not a Twit TV show. This is just something I'm doing. Please don't tell Lisa and Leo. But I do plenty of content on twit.tv. You can find me on Mondays on This Week in Enterprise Tech at 2:30. You can find me on Tuesdays on Tech News Tonight at 4 o'clock. Then on Thursdays, I've got Know-How and Coding 101 at 12:30 and 1:30 p.m. all times Pacific. Also, please, please, please stop by live every 7 o'clock Friday. I don't think those were words that should have been in that order, but I'm going to try to do Padres Corner. Not next week, and unfortunately, I have to be out of the country, but every week that I can, I'm going to spend an hour with you just to shoot the breeze and meet some interesting people from around the interwebs. Finally, follow me on Twitter at PadreSJ. That's twitter.com/PadreSJ, or just that @ PadreSJ. You'll find out what I'm doing, where I am, what projects I'm working on, and you'll be able to suggest hosts, future guests for Padres Corner. It's one of the ways that I stay in touch with everyone. Finally, I want to thank everyone who made this show possible, especially to Lisa and Leo and everyone else who is looking the other way while I take over this $1 million studio. Until the next time we meet, friends, I'm Father Robert Balasaire, and this was Padres Corner.